just because you're good at the thing, mortgages, real estate, whatever, doesn't mean you're going to be good at running a business, right? There's a lot to running a business and you need to know the fundamentals.
Welcome to another episode of my podcast, Relentless Life on Your Terms. We have a special guest with us again, Bill Nikolouzakis. Tells us his story, semi-pro athlete to all of his ventures in business, to being a CEO and a CFO of an ASX-listed company and all of his learnings. So, Bill, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, mate. Long distance.
Always difficult to shake with these. So you've got quite an interesting, Bill, story. Tell us a bit about it. How did it start? And I know you've been in business for almost 20 years. Tell us where it all started for you.
It all started from being a failed athlete, mate. So in my teens, I played football, soccer, semi-professionally. And up until I was probably 19, I thought that's what I was going to do. I was going to play in Europe, and that was everything to me. I trained, multiple times a day, weeks on end, years on end, to make that goal. And I remember, I've told this story before, but I remember sitting on the bench in a Premier League side in Victoria. I hadn't played all season, and I remember having this stark realization. It was freezing day that I'm not going to be a pro. I'm not good enough to be a pro, and that moment changed my life because just my personality is, if I'm not going to be the best at it, I literally played out the rest of that season and never played competitively again. I then dedicated my life to trying to succeed in business. So, got into finance just by chance. Back then, you could be a taxi driver yesterday, mortgage broker today. So I got into mortgages because I was good at numbers and I'm good with people. And then that evolved from there into all the other businesses that I started. I started my first business 2 years after having my first job because I thought that I could do it better, wrongly. And then I've been in and out of business ever since then in different industries.
Well, wrongly or rightly, I might add, because I think the wrongly was the rightly, because then it springboarded into many things. But
yeah,
the reason I was smiling when you're saying that story, you're almost saying an identical story to my own. I was actually maybe a semi-pro snooker player as well.
Yeah.
Represented Victoria 5 years in a row in the under-18s, under-21s. Realised I couldn't be good enough to turn pro, and I weighed up the pros and the cons, and I said, if I was the best player in history, at the time was Stephen Henry, would I be happy with the outcome?
Yeah.
And I said, no. Now, the realization is I'm definitely not going to be the best player in history. And that's when I stopped and put my cue away for almost then. My friend who I represented Victoria with is the greatest cue sports player outside the UK of all time.
Wow.
It's actually number 6 in the world currently, speak about him all the time. So when you said that story, actually, it is a hard realization, but the lessons that you learn from trying to become so good at some sport are transferable into business, which is why I'd probably gave you a good discipline to succeed in business.
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that because I've got a similar story as well. The person that I did all this training with became a pro, the most successful player in the A-League history. He's won more championships in A-League history.
Who is it?
Michael Theo. And watching him, and part of the reasons I think I quit as well is just seeing him and others.
How good he is?
Yes, how good he is, but also just the dedication, the level of dedication that it took. Like I was pretty dedicated. Like I trained a lot, but I also went nightclubbing and drinking. And then you see the people that made it of my age group, playing at competitive levels at my age group, the guys that made it, they didn't do all that. They are 100% dedicated. And I never was. And I think that realization sitting on that bench, not only was I not good enough, but maybe I didn't want it enough, really enough to make it.
I think it was that because I thought maybe I wasn't good enough to, but this kid was one of the best of all time, in my opinion. Now he went overseas. Before he won in a tournament, I travelled Australia with him. Before he won an Open Australian event, he was a junior Australian champion. I go, Neil, what's your goal for this year? He goes, I want to win every tournament I play in.
Yeah.
Okay, you haven't even won one yet, mate. Every tournament that he went, in his mind, I'm winning.
Yeah.
So the ability that this kid had, he would never, ever stumble from the same stumbling position the second year round. So he would make the quarters, semis, final, then win.
Yeah.
He had the most ridiculous belief in himself I've ever seen on any athlete. One of the nicest kids as well, or I shouldn't say that, he's like 41, I've ever met. And he's done really, really well. So it's actually hitting a real nerve saying that story, but I think it's, at least for my situation, I think that really springboarded. I knew that I needed to do so much more in business or anything else to get to that next level.
Yeah, and it translates a lot. Obviously, sport to business translates a lot. Like the things that I think that I missed and that I didn't do enough, to make it as a pro athlete, I've brought into my business life. Like,
can you give me an example?
Yeah, like outworking everyone, learning as much as you can about everything. Like I'm an avid learner. Like before that day, I told you that 19, I don't think even in high school, I don't think I read a book. I always tried to shortcut it. Read the shortcut version of it all. And then I became like an avid learner. Like I read a lot now, and all nonfiction. So I just love to learn, not because I just love learning. So that's the most enjoyable thing to me. If I read a good autobiography or a good book that I'm learning something I've never learned before about some obscure subject, whether that's history or business, then that's what I'm going to do. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and then I actively learn. So whether that's going to courses, running courses, learning about a new technology that's coming out or something like that. So I've taken a lot of that stuff that I feel like maybe it contributed to me not succeeding in football, and made sure that I didn't make that mistake again in business.
So then again, every mistake's a good mistake because you win or learn, I guess.
Yeah.
And in that case, you're learning. So you were a good footballer, you were a good soccer player, then you went into business. Tell me that transition into where we are now. So obviously you bought and sold a few businesses. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So when I went into mortgages, it took me about 6 months to get to know the lay of the land. And then I just immediately was better than most people at the sales part of it. I was way more active than anyone, made more phone calls, saw more people. And people tended to like me. So I got more deals done. And a good friend of mine at the time used to get leads for mortgage brokers. And he was in a call center, and we just thought we could do it better. So back then we went out and started a call center to get leads for mortgage brokers, and it worked great. And in fact, that business was pretty successful. What we quickly did then, we said, instead of selling leads, why don't we just write the mortgages ourselves? I know how to write a mortgage. And we started writing a lot of mortgages, but we were literally, I think we were 22 years old, writing a hell of a lot of mortgages, and we just weren't good at the business or the back end.
So when did you start your first business? 2021?
Yeah, I was probably at 21,
and
22.
You're writing a lot of mortgages. What sort of volumes are we talking?
Back then, we're doing probably about 5 or 6 a month, 7 a month back then. So it was probably just a couple of million. And then we sold, because we got the marketing business was going well, but then we kind of cannibalized that to get leads for ourselves. And although we wrote a lot of mortgage, we were writing a lot more than that, but we weren't settling them. A lot of them were falling over. We didn't really know what we were doing from a business perspective.
So the back end process, you mean?
Yeah.
Or just the scale process?
No, the back end processes we weren't good at, and also the business. One thing that a lot of people, I try to explain to a lot of my clients, is that just because you're good at the thing, mortgages, real estate, whatever, doesn't mean you're going to be good at running a business, right? There's a lot to running a business. You need to know the fundamentals well. The accounting principles, the finance principles.
But how do you learn them?
Well, you got to do them to learn them, and you got to be actively, like I vividly remember going to accountants and saying, I want you to do everything. I don't want to know about it. I hate this stuff. And that's such the wrong way to go about it. Yeah. You need to be actively involved, and you need to want to learn. You can't just outsource such an important part of your business without knowing the basics and understanding what's right and what's wrong.
Yep.
And when we sold that trail book, which was a small business back then. So we said we failed, but we didn't go bankrupt or anything, right? We just didn't work out. And then the guy that bought that rent roll for us, I went to a bank. Daniel went and did his thing. And then eventually the guy that bought our mortgage book hired me back. And that's when I started writing a crap load of mortgages. I think we did $50 million worth of mortgages in my first year there. And the average mortgage was $200,000. So I was doing I was writing 5 loans.
It's 250 loans.
Yeah. I was doing
to settle 50 million.
So I was doing, driving to Cranbourne.
Do you say 200,000 average?
Less. It was 190 or something. Yeah. Back then.
So you got to write 5
loans
to write
I was running 5 a
bucks.
week. Yeah. I was running 5 a week.
That's
every week.
A lot of loans.
Doing
a lot of loans.
A lot of driving, a lot of appointments. But it was good. Got that built in a really strong work ethic, understood that process really well. And that was a great little business we did there. And then, a couple of years of doing that, with a really good mentor at the time, Nazar, I went and I just thought that I could do, I sat down and I said, our clients would go see a financial advisor, right? And even though financial advice wasn't as good as it is now back then, it still was a pretty good process. They got a lot of information, they got this full kit around what they're going to invest in and how it's going to work and all the risks and all the benefits, and then would refer them to a property company and they'd sell them some dodgy property in the middle of nowhere with no information and just a brochure. And I thought, that's crap, why aren't our clients getting the same level of information that they would get when they're buying a financial product than when they're buying property. So I started a company called Nico Property in 2008. And in that first year, we were selling property reports. So to developers would say, I'm going to sell this project, I'll get a brochure done, and then we'll put together these due diligence packs. And then they'd use them to help them sell the project, and to give clients, the consumers, all that information. You can't sell enough of those to make a good amount of money.
Of course, that's a volume play, but how big's that volume play?
Not nowhere near big enough. So then we went and got a real estate license, and instead of selling just the packs, we engaged financial advisors, accountants, and the like, and other real estate agents on those projects. So we effectively became the exclusive listing agent, but we never saw a client. We just put the information together, marketed it, and sent it out to had other agents sell those projects for us. And as that business evolved over time, again, scalability just wasn't where we wanted it to be doing it that way. So we then pivoted our model a little bit to go to financial services companies. So our clients at the time were the approved product provider for Mortgage Choice, iSelect, Yellow Brick Road, Val Financial, Finsure, a bunch of others. So we went on their panel, and then instead of having selling, just putting the packs together, then we brought in a team of sales agents that helped mortgage brokers, accountants, financial advisors, and their clients invest in property.
I get it, yeah.
Yeah.
And so then, after that, you sold a few businesses, and you got into, now I know where we actually work together. We're a client of yours now, and one of the businesses you're working with.
Yep.
So fast forward to that point, now you're running consultancy businesses. You're a keynote speaker.
Yeah. So it's funny because when when Nico Property was built up, and then we started getting these big corporate partnerships, it became an attractive business for other businesses. So a publicly listed property portal named iBuyNew. They ended up acquiring my business, and then I became their group CEO. So going from small business all my life to being a CEO of an ASX listed company was a big change, and that sort of started my corporate career. So iBuyNew, and then when we ran iBuyNew for a couple of years, went through a big change management process, sold off that business that they listed because we sold it. And then I went to work for one of the companies that was actually in to potentially buy it. The owner of that business is someone that I've known of a long time and respected a lot, and in the technology space. And there was a couple of people in that business that have done really amazing things in technology, and they listed another business, and I went to work for them as a chief revenue officer, another listed business. So I started this corporate career out of nowhere, really, and I did that for sort of between those two businesses about 4 years, and then in July last year, got back into small business. The corporate side's super fun, but it's not my bag. I think I love doing it, and I love a project. I've always a lot of people say to me, "Oh, you've done finance. You're a finance guy. Then you're a property guy. You've done tech. You're a tech guy." I don't see myself as any of those. I love building businesses, and I love building something really cool and special.
How about entrepreneur?
Yeah, that's it. I think that's the best way to explain what I am. And I always say to this, there's a lot of entrepreneurs in corporate. A lot of guys that just take that business as if it's their own, and and grow those businesses. So I think entrepreneurship is a mindset, rather than a job, if that makes sense. So come to now, a good friend of mine I've been his client at his law firm for 15 odd years, Rex Afrasiabi, and I.
Mutual friend who's also on my podcast, seeing that exact seat.
So Rex came to me and he said, "Hey, legal tech's so horrible. Why don't we try and build something that's going to make the legal side from technology more efficient and run more efficient legal businesses?" And that kind of pivoted into a conveyancing or a law firm, national law firm that we've built, a conveyancing business. And we started that the idea sort of came out as soon as I left PropTech Group in July last year. We launched in October, so really busy building the tech between sort of July and October. We launched in October. Since October, we've built a whole team. We've got a GM running that business now. We're national in every state. I think Tasmania is the only state we're not in at the moment. So we're almost national. Got people on the ground all over the country. One of the fastest growing law firms in Australia.
I saw that. That's incredible.
Yeah. And we've built that whole business around, when we started that business, the first thing you do when you build tech, right? You say, okay, we're going to build this tech. Let's go and interview every stakeholder to find out how they would like to use this tech. So first of all, we went and interviewed a bunch of conveyancers and lawyers and stuff like that, right? And then we said, okay, how do they want to use it? Then we interviewed developers and clients, vendors and buyers. And we said, how would you like to be engaged? That's the normal process. And then I thought to myself, hey, well, who else is important in a real estate transaction? Well, the real estate agent and the mortgage broker. So let's go, and the bankers. So then we started interviewing them a lot. And then what we found was, yes, the tech was crap and the process was really manual for conveyancers and for clients. But because it was a one-off transaction, the clients didn't really care. We did it once every 5 years. And the conveyancers, they were inefficient, very inefficient. But it wasn't that much of a game changer that, we'd build this amazing business out of it. What was the big game changer was how badly real estate agents and mortgage brokers were engaged by the lawyers, how little information they gave, and how that affected the overall consumer experience. So we improved the consumer experience of buying a property, not just by providing a better conveyancing service, but by providing better visibility and communication to the other stakeholders that are really important in the transaction, the real estate agents and the mortgage brokers.
And obviously you did that through research and due diligence and say, why brought it up? What's working, what's not?
Yeah.
Like kind of what Uber did when it came to taxis and stuff, where you go to the complaints department. That's where most of those big companies that go to the complaints to come, what's the problem we can solve? That's the game changer.
That's it. And what we quickly found was, not only can we improve tech to solve those problems, giving them a portal to look at every single one of their client files, completely updated, integrated into our system, so they're pushing updates into their system. The client's got their own portal, so they can see exactly what's happening 24/7. They get home from work at 7:30 at night. Conveyancer might not answer their phone, but they can just jump into the portal on the app on their phone or on the website, and they can see exactly where their file's at. They can download documents. They can ask questions to the conveyancer who will answer in the morning, all those types of things. And that's the same for the mortgage broker or the accountant. The mortgage broker or the real estate agent. The difference is the mortgage broker or real estate agent might have 10, 20, 30 files. The client will only see their own. And the client's portal is gamified. There's a truck that moves across all the processes. Fireworks go off at different stages. It just makes it easier for the client. But for the mortgage broker and the real estate agent, that visibility is important. They can download documents, do all that kind of thing in real time. You're a mortgage broker, you get home from 7:30, 8 o'clock from your appointment. You might need an update. You can just jump in and have a look, and you know exactly what's going on.
But it also builds trust. And we were speaking before on air about client experience. It's actually one of our 5 values, and it's so important. And I remember going back to a time I saw an executive at Apple speak. He came down actually to Melbourne. He was speaking, and he goes, "We don't talk about return on investment anymore. We talk about return on experience."
Yeah.
Because the return on experience is what's going to drive the return on investment. And then also, if you look at Apple's one of the best at having clients that are raving fans. They're promoters of the business. They love the product, and even if they go a little bit wrong with something, they're so loyal to their fan base.
Yeah.
They talk so much on that. And when I thought of that, go return on experience, that's going to drive everything anyway. But it's also going to optimize everything that you do.
Yeah, it's I do keynotes across Australia on different topics, and my most popular topic is how improving your customer experience can drive revenue growth. And when working in technology a little bit recently, I always thought that the customer experience team should be part of the revenue function, because it is so linked to how well you would do in the sales and marketing, your customer experience at the end.
You'd want to put them together, of course.
Yeah, and you think about small business, right? So the most successful small businesses out there aren't the ones with this amazing marketing, because they haven't got the dollars to test and like a big corporates do, right? Marketing, and you're doing your pay-per-click campaigns. We all know that how expensive it can be to get those right, and how much you got to iterate them. You need big marketing teams, creative, all those types of things. The best small businesses that I've seen that grow organically, without huge amounts of investment, are the ones that provide an amazing customer experience, and then they can turn those customers into raving fans and then promoters of their business.
They come back as customers, and they also then refer their friends.
Correct. Yeah.
Which is we've been very, very fortunate that not only we've got great clients, but we've had clients that do repeat business, that have bought multiple properties. Because I always say to our clients, I don't want to look at you buying one property off me. I want you to buy 5 or 6. I want to build a long-term relationship with you to make sure that you achieve your retirement, because one's going to move the needle, but it's not going to do the trick. 2's not going to complete it, but 3 or 4 will get closer. So I want to make sure that client experience is good. We're checking in regularly.
Yeah.
So we do our 6-month reviews. Plus, for the first time, if our client buys a property, they hear from us 30, 40 times, and that's a mixture of newsletters, tech going out to them, phone calls from client experience officers in managers, and keep going back on and so forth.
Yeah, it's so funny because just being in tech a little bit recently, a lot of people think that you can just solve any problem with tech, and tech for me is an enabler. So it's the means to the end, not the end in itself. You use tech to improve your customer experience. You use tech to improve your processes, but you can't just rely on tech to do everything for you. And even with Bond, we make it very clear with clients, and it's our tagline: tech enabled, but people first.
I
And
like that a lot.
we're really serious about that, right? Yes, we use tech as much as we can, but some clients don't want to use tech. They don't know how to use tech, so we'll do it all offline for them. We're always people first. We talk about our we've got Bond Conveyancing is our net promoter score is 170% above benchmark for other conveyancers in Australia. Got all 5-star Google reviews, and that's not just because of our tech. Sure, tech might play a part in that, but it's the way that we run our team. It's the things that we make build our culture upon. We were talking earlier. When I talk to our conveyancing team now, it's not about, we talk about our results at the end of every month. I present to them. We don't talk about, we'll talk about how many files did we do this month? How many clients did we settle? All those types of things we will. But what we focus most of our attention on is what was our NPS score for that month? How did we perform against benchmark? And how many 5-star Google reviews did we get?
I find that very interesting, and I hope you don't mind mentioning. You mentioned offline that when you have your meetings, you discuss those points to start with, and they're so important. And being a client, I can actually see what you're saying. Not only do you actually do it, but it actually works.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I always say that the thing you talk about most in business is what's going to become most important to your team. So we start in our one-on-ones with our key staff. We talk about customer experience. Okay, where we're at with NPS. Was there any negative reviews? Was there any 1 to NPSs that were 1 to 6 were detractors? Did we call them? Again, every single client that is a detractor, their rates 1 to 6, they'll get a call from our most senior staff member, Morella Rice, our GM. And we'll find out why. We'll try and fix that problem. Like you said before about every lesson is a potential opportunity. It's the same thing, right? We say those 1 to 6s, if we ever get one, we don't get many of them, but if we do get one, we want to find out why, so we can potentially fix a process and system, and then also try and make that client feel better about things. So what can we do to make them feel better so they don't become a detractor out in the market? And then use that feedback to improve our business. And that's really important. So there's one of those 1 to 6s come in. It's not the end of the world. We did something wrong. We've got to fix it. But we look at that as an opportunity to try and improve our processes and systems. And just going back a step, when we looked at tech, what does a real estate agent, what does a mortgage broker want? Inadvertently, what we've learned was that they're going to be our biggest referrers, right? They're the ones that are going to give us all our clients. So not only are we solving that problem for a better client experience, but that means they're going to refer more people to us.
I was actually going to say that when you were talking about that, but I wanted to hear what you were saying, because you're getting two of the people that are involved in that process. And what do they do all day, by the way?
Yeah,
they're dealing with purchases, they're dealing with buyers.
Yeah.
So you're solving their problem, making it easy for them, giving a good client experience. You'll get so much more work out of these two people, even though directly they're not the ones that are bringing in the business. They're the ones servicing the business, and they're seeing these transactions all day.
Yeah.
So a very, very clever point to look at, because you're including them in that whole process of solving that problem.
Yeah, and our customer experience is our whole selling point, right?
It's front to back. It's not A, B, it's the C and D in between as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we part of the visual of ours is, every conveyancing business out there is a B2C business to consumer. We see ourselves as a B to B to C business, so business to consumer. And that middle business, who's that everything that we do in our business, every decision we make, every process we build is with the real estate agent and the mortgage broker in mind. How can we make that process better for them, right? So not only for the consumer, yes, of course, they're our main client. We have to do everything that's right for them. But how can we make the business, the process better for them, the middle B? Because we know that by improving their processes, they're going to provide a better process to the consumer. And then by making it easier for them and providing a better experience, we know we're going to get more referrals. And our whole strategy, we don't do any digital marketing. Our whole strategy is a channel strategy, because we know that we're getting, we're one of the fastest growing firms in Australia. We're getting it all from these channel groups. Because
what do you attribute that to?
I think we've just built a process that has them at the front of our thinking. So if you do that, you're going to provide a much better experience to them and their client, which means it's going to make it easier for them to refer. So and then there's other things that we think about, right? For when you're building a channel strategy like that, it's not, you could have the best experience in the world, but you need to solve problems. Otherwise, if you're not solving a big enough problem, they're not going to refer to you, right? It's too easy just to not worry about it for them. Conveyancing is not that important to a mortgage broker and a real estate agent, right? So you've got to solve a problem for them that makes it worthwhile for them to refer.
It's funny because when you said Steve Jobs says I show people things they didn't even know they needed.
Yeah.
By having a different level of the way you think, which is you're including the mortgage broker and you're including the the real estate agents as well, you're getting a great source of feedback and a great source of referral work.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So now obviously you're involved with Bond Conveyancing.
Yep.
There's a couple other businesses you're involved with now too, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. So there's got my main sort of day-to-day business is the consulting business. So Levels Growth Consultants, and when I left corporate in July last year, it was funny because I didn't really have anything in mind to go into other than I was going to do Bond with Rex, but I knew that wasn't going to be the only thing I would be doing. In fact, I made a decision, probably a bit like you. I've always focused on one thing, and it's like consume my life, one business at a time. But I didn't want to do that. I thought to myself, I want to have a few things happening and just change the way I've never done that before. I wanted to try that out. So I started this. I wasn't really sure about what I was going to do. I knew I was going to do Bond, and then a bunch of people reached out to me, and they said, "Hey, can you help us with this part of my business, or can you help us with this part of my business?" Some of them offered me jobs, but I didn't want a job. And then I looked at them and thought, I can help them, and I'm probably only going to need X amount of hours a month to help them. And that's what I created a consulting business from. So the consulting business it wasn't some big idea that I had when I left corporate. It really happened almost organically. And the idea that I had was, being in corporate, I always say this, there's some super smart people in corporate. But pound for pound, the smartest people I know are in small business. And often what they're missing is just that really specific strategy piece that you get in corporate, or that learning that you get in corporate, because at scale, you're doing things at scale that you just don't get in small business. So it's not as if they're not as smart as the guys in corporate. They just never experience the things that you experience in some things in corporate.
Maybe the opportunities or the money or the investment, but I think when you focus on small to medium enterprises, which is the heart of what we do, I think what they find is that they're hustlers. They work very, very hard. They've started, like myself or yourself, with nothing or from nothing to build something special.
Yeah.
And I think it's a different level of appreciation, respect, or work ethic required to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we found. So you've got that. You've got the consulting business as well.
Yep. And the consulting business, the whole idea was behind it when we started sort of building out what we wanted to achieve and who we wanted to be and all our values and all that kind of thing, was we wanted to make that enterprise level advice and execution available to small business, or accessible to small business. Yep. So, bringing my small business background knowledge along with my corporate knowledge of being a CEO of a listed company, chief revenue officer of another listed company, getting that knowledge and bringing it into small business to help them improve. And the small businesses that we help, they're not small businesses that just want to, I just want to improve a little bit. They're guys that want to grow.
They've got big dreams.
Yeah, they've got someone that wants to actually level up. That's where we use the word levels in their business name. We want to level up. So go from a lot of the business that we deal with are actually really good businesses, profitable, making money, doing well, but they have dreams and aspirations to go to that next level. And often, to scale the business, as I'm sure it's not doing the same things, just more of them. You have to typically change
better, more efficient, stand out.
Yeah, you typically have to change the way you're doing things quite a bit. So we help them devise the go-to-market strategies. We help them change the processes. Do they need to implement technology? Do they need to implement different customer experience type solutions? And we help them grow their businesses. So whether that's from an operational systems and processes aspect, or helping them devise, sales and marketing functions and improving those. So we help in all those areas.
Excellent. Now, Bill, I can talk to you all day about this because it fascinates me. But as our time is coming to the end, I hope everyone's enjoyed as much as me. You ready for your quick fire questions?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm ready.
Okay. Now, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Employees are paid to do their job, but they volunteer their best.
Okay. So treat them good. Make sure they can do that.
Yeah.
What book are you currently reading, and would you recommend to our listeners? Or you read?
Yeah, couple that stand out. One of the first books I read when I started reading was this little book by Richard Branson called Screw It, Let's Do It. And I've read it like 10 times since. It's so inspirational, and it really just gives you that little pep, when you read it. It's a super easy read. And The Four Agreements is a really good one that I reread. The Alchemist is another really popular one.
You read the second one, Fifth Agreement?
No, I haven't.
It's the second version of that.
Oh,
really?
Really
Good book as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, if you had one superpower, what would it be?
Persistence and resilience.
What's your favorite food?
I'm going to say a really good wood-fired margarita pizza.
Good old grady, huh?
Yeah.
Favorite color?
Red.
First thing you think of when you wake up in the morning?
My kids.
What's your go-to productive hack or lifetime management tip?
Time blocking instead of scheduling, tasks for the day or to-do list. Time blocking.
I started doing that. It's incredible.
It's massive game, productivity game.
What's something you wish more people knew about you?
What's something I wish more people knew about me? That I have a deep desire to help my teams and people.
Which makes sense. You got the consulting firm.
Yeah.
Now, how do people get in touch with you, Bill?
Yeah, so Instagram at BillNico10, LinkedIn at BillNico10, or if somebody wants to discuss my keynote speaking or consulting or even Bond Conveyancing, BN, so the initials of my name, BN at levelsgc.com.
So we'll put all of those in the comments below. Last question, probably what the most important question we've had today.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much have you enjoyed being on the podcast?
How much I enjoyed it? I've got to say 10.
There we go.
Has to be.
Hope you've all enjoyed it, guys. We'll put all these details in the comments below. Thank you.